Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. Wanted to take a moment and talk about new subwoofer plug and play harnesses I've developed for the E-Tron models. As you may know, I've made a good handful of harnesses for the B9 models, which are basically, the A4, the S4, the RS4 in Europe, along with the the A5, the S5, the RS5, and then the Q5 and SQ5, all variants. Whether they're coupes, sportbacks, or sedans. So familiar with how these harnesses work, and wanted to use my knowledge to develop these for the E-Tron models. Now, I got the help of a E-Tron owner to make these, and very grateful for his contributions. His name is Jordan, and I decided to go ahead and offer these for sale for any E-Tron owners that may want these. Also, something to note, now these may work with other, many different E-Tron models. What I'll do is I will leave the part numbers for these connectors in the description, the male and the female, right? And if your part number is similar to that, then these will work for your car. And the way you'll be able to tell the part number is it's printed on the outside of these connectors that's in your car. So the connector that's coming off of the sub and the connector that is being plugged into the sub. It's very easy to find. If you need any help, I'll leave my email address in the description, so that if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and email me also. But let's talk about these harnesses here. So I have two different variations, and they're both pigtail harnesses. One, as you can see, has an additional adapter attached to it, is basically a female RCA, and then one does not. I'll kind of get into the specifics as to different applications for that. But first off, what I want to do is I want to talk about how you would connect these if you're not familiar with my other harnesses. The way this works is you have the signal wire coming from your amp, which basically runs to your OEM sub, which is typically in the trunk area of the car. What you do is you unplug that off of the OEM sub and you plug it into this connector right here. So this accepts the sub signal wire coming from the amp, which is a very similar connector that looks like this. So it gets plugged into this one right here, and then if you want to use your OEM sub with your aftermarket sub, what you would do is you would plug in your aftermarket sub into this connector right here. So now you've kind of created a loop, right? Everything should work fine. Now, connecting to the aftermarket amp, this is where, we've got the two different variations here, right? So let's talk about this variation right here. So with this variation, what I've done is I've made it so that it's open-ended. It basically accepts four wires. Now you could run this to your amp, a powered LOC, or even a just a speaker box if you just want to add in a speaker. Now, one thing that I will warn, if you are adding in a speaker while running the OEM speaker, you may want to check to make sure that the ohms don't overpower your OEM amp, because you could create some issues by doing that. But again, check that at your own leisure, and just make sure you're not damaging anything within your car. So now this variation right here, it's the same exact model, except for it just has an added female RCA connector at the end of it. And what you'll do here, what a lot of people do is they'll use a jumper male to male RCA, and they'll connect directly to the amp. Now, the amp that I recommend on the B9 models are typically kicker amps. They tend to play the nicest with the OEM B&O amp. And you can read this on the forum posts, or even on Facebook, and I'm sure there's lots of places you can read this. But in the B9 models, if you don't have a specific amp, it tends to not play well with the OEM system that's in the car, specifically the OEM amp. It tends to shut down. So like I said, the models that work the best are kicker models, and then if you don't want to use the kicker models that I've recommended for the B9 models, then you can use a LC2i or a kicker key lock powered LOC. Now, if you use a LOC, like I said, I think earlier in the video, is you would use this model right here, because the LOCs typically only have speaker level wire inputs. Actually not speaker level, but speaker wire inputs. They don't have RCA inputs. If you use a kicker amp, one of the compatible kicker amps, that is, you just want to make sure it can accept up to 40 volts. So that's the key thing. That's the key specifications you wanna look for. And then the kicker amps tend to receive, they can receive a high level RCA signal as well. So that you could plug it directly. I actually prefer this method right here because it's cleaner. If you just use this right here, use a kicker amp, and it'll all be plug and play. The only thing that you'll have to worry about is the power and the remote wire. And then speaking of the remote wire, I do include on wire tap, so that when you need to tap in to have your amp turn on, that connector or that wire tap will be available for you. Well, that's about it, guys. Just wanted to do a quick video talking about these new harnesses. Like I said, I will leave the part numbers to these two in the description, so you can tell if these will work for you or not. If it's the same part number that's printed on your OEM sub connector and the OEM connector going into the sub, these should work for your car. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or leave a comment in the comment section, and I will get back to you. All right, take care and have a great day.